The arrival of the single ship. The galaxy was a vast place, filled with countless stars and planets. Across its endless expanse, alien empires ruled. They were powerful, ancient, and had seen more wars and conflicts than any human could imagine. But there was something that had never happened before. A tiny, unassuming human ship had just entered their space. It was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. A small, single vessel, moving steadily through the blackness of space, far from any known human colonies. The galaxy's most advanced alien fleets had always traveled in large groups, prepared for any kind of threat. But this ship, this solitary human vessel, didn't seem like it was a threat at all. In the far reaches of the galaxy, in a sector known for its strategic importance, the alien warlords watched through their advanced tracking systems. They had detected the ship's arrival but were puzzled. Why would humanity send only one ship? Were they planning to make a bold statement, or was this a desperate move to hide their weakness? The alien leaders, from several different species, gathered in their grand chambers to discuss the situation. They looked at the ship's size on their holographic displays. It was small, almost insignificant compared to the massive warships the galaxy was used to seeing. Some of the alien leaders laughed at the sight of it. Was this really the best humanity could send? "Look at it," one of them sneered. "A single ship from a race that believes it can challenge us. This is nothing to worry about. Let's see what it does. If it gets too close, we'll destroy it quickly." Another leader, more cautious, frowned. "We should be careful. We don't know what they might have on that ship." But I agree. There's no need to waste too many resources on something this small. As the discussion continued, the human ship continued its course, unaffected by the growing curiosity and mockery around it. It moved through space with a quiet determination, its path set with a clear purpose. No one on board showed signs of hesitation. The crew of the ship, a group of brave men and women from Earth, knew that they were embarking on a mission that would change everything. But they were unaware of the impact their arrival would soon have. The ship's sensors detected something ahead, a large alien outpost. It was on a planet orbiting a distant star, located deep within enemy territory. To most in the galaxy, this would have been an impossible mission. A lone ship against such overwhelming forces. But humanity had always been known for their determination and creativity. The commander of the ship, Captain Elias Drake, stood on the bridge, looking out at the swirling cosmos ahead. He knew what they were about to do was dangerous. It was a mission of great importance, one that could either mark the beginning of humanity's rise or lead to its downfall. But they had no choice. They had been called to do this, and they would not back down. Drake's thoughts were interrupted by a message on his console. It was a warning from Earth, sent just before they entered the alien space. "Captain Drake, this is your final chance to turn back. You are entering hostile territory, and you have no idea what you're facing. Proceed with caution." But Captain Drake did not hesitate. He knew that humanity's future depended on this very moment. "Prepare for entry into the sector. All hands, brace yourselves." As the ship made its way closer to the alien outpost, the alien forces watched from afar, still unsure of what to make of the human ship. The laughter had died down, replaced by uncertainty. There was something about this ship, something different, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. The ship's hull gleamed in the starlight as it continued its journey, cutting through the darkness like a spear. The unknown stretched before them, but they had a mission. And no matter how the galaxy laughed at them now, they would not stop. They were here for something bigger than any single ship or individual. "Captain," said the ship's navigator, "Lieutenant Sophia Winters, we're approaching the outpost. We should be ready for anything." Captain Drake nodded, his gaze fixed ahead. He had trained for years for this moment, and now that it was here, there was no turning back. They were going to make history, whether the galaxy was ready or not. The alien forces were beginning to realize that this ship, the one they had dismissed as insignificant, was not so simple after all. It was just one ship, but it carried with it the weight of humanity's will. The moment the ship entered the sector, the aliens would understand. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The ship passed through the first layer of alien defenses, unnoticed for now. But soon, the galaxy would have its answer. This was not just another small ship. This was the beginning of something far greater. And the aliens would soon learn that the laughter they had once shared would turn to dread. The first encounter was about to unfold. The ship's crew remained focused, unaware of the enormous consequences their journey would set into motion. As they moved closer to their destination, the aliens could no longer afford to laugh. This single human ship was about to make them rethink everything. As the lone human warship edged closer to the alien outpost, the tension among the alien forces grew. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations, powerful and proud, had never faced such a challenge. A single human ship. It was impossible to comprehend. Yet here it was, moving steadily toward the heart of their territory. They had laughed. They had mocked. But now doubt had begun to creep in. What if they had underestimated humanity? Captain Elias Drake stood at the helm, his eyes focused on the readings in front of him. His hand hovered over the control panel as he glanced back at his crew. His first officer, Commander Ryan Holt, stood beside him, the weight of the mission heavy on his shoulders. "Captain, we've just entered their scanning range. We're being detected," Ryan said, his voice steady, but tinged with a note of caution. Drake nodded, his face betraying no emotion. "Maintain course. We can't afford to stop now." The ship's sensors buzzed with a stream of data, showing the first signs of the alien defenses activating. Ahead of them, the vast alien outpost loomed, a towering structure of metal and energy, surrounded by a dense field of sensor satellites and automated defense platforms. Lieutenant Sophia Winters, the ship's navigator, looked up from her station. "We're entering the system's outer defenses. If they decide to engage, we'll be in the line of fire." There was a brief silence on the bridge as the gravity of the situation sank in. The crew of the human warship was about to face the unknown, and they could not predict what would happen next. Would the aliens attack on sight, or would they hesitate, just as they had with the ship's arrival? "I don't think they'll attack immediately," Commander Holt said, breaking the silence. "They're watching us, trying to figure out what we're really after. They don't understand why we sent only one ship." "They will soon enough," Captain Drake replied with a grim smile. Suddenly, the sensors went wild. A loud alarm blared throughout the ship, filling the bridge with a sense of urgency. "Warning! Incoming energy signatures," Lieutenant Winters shouted. "We're being locked onto by their defense systems." Drake's heart raced, but his voice remained calm. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Full speed ahead. Engage shields." The ship's engines roared to life as it sped up, hurtling toward the alien outpost at full velocity. The shields flickered on, casting a faint blue glow over the ship as they powered up, ready to absorb any incoming fire. The crew braced themselves for impact, every one of them knowing the importance of this moment. "Brace for impact," Drake ordered, as the ship shook violently. A massive energy beam shot past them, narrowly missing their port side. "Captain, they're testing us," Ryan said, his fingers flying across the controls. "They want to see how we react." Drake nodded. "And we'll show them. Prepare to fire back." The human warship was a marvel of technology, designed to be small and agile, able to strike hard and fast. As the alien defenses launched a second volley of energy blasts, Drake steered the ship into a sharp dive, narrowly avoiding the blast that would have obliterated them. The human crew worked in perfect synchrony, counteracting the aliens' attacks with the precise and calculated movements that humanity had always been known for. "Target the enemy sensors," Drake shouted, his eyes locked onto the battle. "Disable their targeting systems." Lieutenant Winters turned to her console, and with a few swift commands, the human warship fired a precise burst of energy at one of the alien satellite stations, disabling it instantly. The first alien outpost defense fell silent, no longer able to track the human ship. "They didn't expect that," Ryan murmured. "It's just the beginning," Captain Drake replied, watching as the alien defenses slowly began to react. The first shot had been a warning, and the humans had passed it. Now the aliens were forced to rethink their strategy. Suddenly, an ominous signal flashed across the ship's display. An unknown vessel, much larger than their own, had just entered the system. It was unmistakably alien, and its presence was a clear indication that this was no longer a simple encounter. The stakes had just been raised. "This isn't just about a single ship anymore," Captain Drake muttered, his mind racing. "They've called for reinforcements." The new arrival was massive, a battleship far superior to the human vessel in terms of size and firepower. But the human warship wasn't finished yet. It was not about strength alone. Humanity's strength lay in its resilience, its ability to adapt, and its unwavering spirit to fight for what was right. Drake's hand gripped the command console tightly, his voice cutting through the tension in the air. "Prepare for everything. We're about to show them why humanity is more than they ever bargained for." The ship's engines roared again as they powered forward, ready to face whatever came next. The galaxy had seen many battles, but this would be different. This was humanity's first real challenge, and they were determined to rise above the odds. As the two ships, human and alien, faced each other in the cold expanse of space, neither side knew what would happen next. The countdown had begun. Humanity had sent its single ship, and now the galaxy was about to learn why they would never be underestimated again. As the human warship advanced, the cold expanse of space stretched before them, filled with uncertainty. Captain Elias Drake stood at the helm, his grip tight on the controls. The ship's systems hummed around him, a mix of calm and anticipation. They had successfully evaded the initial blasts from the alien defenses, but he knew that the worst was still ahead. The arrival of the larger alien battleship meant that this wasn't just about proving their strength anymore. It was about survival. "Captain," Commander Ryan Holt's voice came from beside him, breaking his focus. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature. It's not coming from the battleship, but from one of the smaller outposts in the system." Drake turned to face Ryan, his brow furrowed. "Explain." Ryan's fingers moved quickly over the console. "It's a stealth cloak of some kind. The alien battleship is probably trying to hide a weapon, something we're not picking up on the scanners." Drake's expression darkened. "Stealth cloaks. That's a problem." The human warship was advanced, but not invincible. While it was small, agile, and powerful, it relied on its ability to see the enemy first. If the aliens had a hidden weapon, the humans might not get a chance to react. "We need to find that weapon before it's too late," Captain Drake ordered. "Sophia, can you pinpoint its location?" Lieutenant Sophia Winters, the ship's navigator, nodded. "I'll give it a try, Captain. But we need to get closer to that outpost." Drake considered their options. The alien battleship was still a looming threat, and the smaller outposts were scattered across the system like mines in an asteroid field. But they had no choice. Time was running out, and they had to act quickly. "Engage thrusters," Drake commanded. "We're going in. Stay sharp, everyone." The warship's engines powered up, and the ship surged forward. The crew braced themselves as they approached the cluster of alien outposts. Each station was a potential trap, its sensors trained on them, waiting for a mistake. Yet the human warship moved through them with calculated precision, its shields glowing brightly as they deflected stray blasts from the outer defenses. "We're getting close," Lieutenant Winters called out, her voice steady as she adjusted their trajectory. "Another few moments, and we'll be right on top of it." Drake felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The enemy's stealth technology had made them nearly invisible to their sensors, but he was counting on the crew's expertise to detect it. Sophia was a skilled navigator, and he trusted her to guide them through the dangers ahead. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted in the distance, and the warship jolted as the shields absorbed the impact of an unexpected blast. "Report." Drake snapped, his heart racing. Ryan's voice came quickly. "It's the battleship. They're firing without warning. We've got to get out of here." "Not yet," Drake said, his eyes fixed on the blinking lights in front of him. "We're almost there. Sophia, do you have a lock on the weapon?" "I think I've got it," she shouted. "There's a cloaked missile platform just beneath the surface of that station. I can't see the exact missile yet, but I'm locking onto its launch signatures." The air on the bridge was thick with tension. Everyone could feel the danger in the air, the weight of the decision that had to be made. It was a gamble. If they stayed on course, they would get a shot at disabling the weapon. But they would also have to face the wrath of the battleship. "We have no choice," Drake said, his voice cold and determined. "Fire a warning shot at the battleship's engines. We'll make them pay attention to us, just long enough for Sophia to disable that missile platform." "Aye, Captain," Ryan said, as his hands moved across the console, the hum of energy building in the ship's cannons. The warship turned sharply, lining up the perfect shot. The crew held their breath as Ryan unleashed a powerful beam from the ship's main cannon, sending it streaking toward the battleship. The impact wasn't enough to destroy the massive vessel, but it hit just below the engines, sending a shockwave through the alien ship. For a moment, everything seemed to slow. The aliens had reacted. The battleship's guns began to turn toward them, ready to fire, but it was too late. "Now, Sophia," Drake barked. Sophia's fingers danced across her console, sending a wave of commands to the ship's weapon systems. Within moments, a series of bursts fired from the warship, hitting the cloaked missile platform with surgical precision. The platform flared brightly, its stealth systems shattered as the missiles were disabled, their power systems fried. For a heartbeat, there was silence. The threat was neutralized. "We did it," Sophia said, her voice filled with relief. "Missile platform destroyed." But the victory was short-lived. The alien battleship was now turning its attention toward them. The real battle was just beginning. The air on the bridge crackled with tension as Captain Drake turned his gaze toward the looming threat ahead. The aliens weren't going to let them off that easily. Now they had to prepare for the fight of their lives. "Everyone, get ready," Captain Drake said, his voice steady, betraying no fear. "This is where it gets serious. The countdown has begun. Let's show them why humanity can't be ignored." The human warship shifted course, its engines roaring to life once more. There was no turning back. The battle for survival had just begun, and the fate of the galaxy was hanging in the balance. As the human warship prepared to engage the alien battleship, an unsettling silence fell over the bridge. Captain Drake stood tall, his eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. The crew had successfully neutralized the missile platform, but there was no time to celebrate. The alien battleship was now bearing down on them, its massive weapons primed for retaliation. "Status report," Drake commanded, his voice sharp and commanding. Ryan Holt, the ship's tactical officer, was at his console, his hands flying over the controls. "We're in their sights, Captain. Weapons are locked on, and they're charging their main cannon. It'll be a matter of seconds before they fire. All hands, brace for impact." Captain Drake ordered, his voice calm but filled with urgency. The crew had been trained for this moment. They knew what was coming, and they knew what had to be done. But something wasn't right. Captain Drake's instincts told him that the alien forces weren't acting as they should. There was a strange hesitation in their movements, a delay in their firing. The tension was palpable. "Why aren't they firing?" Drake muttered to himself. "Captain," Sophia Winters, the ship's navigator, called out, her voice laced with confusion. "I'm getting strange readings. It looks like there's a disruption in their communications. They seem to be arguing." Drake turned sharply to her, brow furrowed. "What are you saying?" "The aliens are fighting among themselves." Sophia nodded. "It seems that way. The communication signals are fragmented, as if there's a power struggle on their ship. This was unexpected. The alien battleship had been a terrifying force, seemingly united in purpose and power. But now, a crack was showing in their armor. Could this be the moment humanity needed to take advantage of their enemy's weaknesses? Or was this simply a trap? Captain Drake had learned never to trust the apparent chaos of an enemy force. Often, it was just a ruse. "Ryan, any change in their trajectory?" Drake asked. "Negative, Captain," Ryan replied, eyes glued to the sensors. "They're still on the same path, but their behavior is erratic. It's as if they're being pulled in two directions at once." A flicker of doubt crept into Drake's mind, but he pushed it aside. There was no room for hesitation. The crew had come this far. They had one shot at survival. "Prepare to engage," Drake commanded, taking a deep breath. "We will use their confusion to our advantage. We need to cripple their weapons before they get the chance to retaliate." But as the human warship moved closer, something even more unexpected happened. Without warning, the alien battleship suddenly shifted its position, veering to one side in an erratic, almost panicked manner. "Captain, they're pulling back," Ryan exclaimed, his voice filled with disbelief. The human crew watched in stunned silence as the alien ship slowed its advance, its guns no longer locked onto their warship. It seemed as if the alien forces were retreating, abandoning their pursuit. "What is going on?" Sophia whispered under her breath, just as shocked as the others. The captain stared at the redouts, trying to make sense of the unexpected turn of events. The alien forces had been unstoppable moments ago, and now they were retreating. Was it a trick, or had something shifted in the alien fleet? Drake didn't want to believe it, but the evidence before him was undeniable. The battleship, now partially cloaked and retreating into the darkness of space, was pulling back just as quickly as it had come. "Hold your fire," Captain Drake ordered, his voice steady as he processed the situation. "We won't attack unless we're fired upon." The warship held its position, hovering in the void of space, waiting for the alien ship's next move. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. The crew was on edge, prepared for anything. They knew this wasn't over. Then, a new signal blinked on the console. It was faint, but unmistakable. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Sophia said, her voice urgent. "It's encrypted, but I'm getting a strange pattern. It's human." "What?" Drake's heart skipped a beat. "Are you sure?" "Positive, Captain. The signal matches the frequency used by the human forces." "Put it through," Drake said, his voice sharp with confusion. He hadn't expected to hear from human forces in this part of the galaxy. They were alone, with no backup in sight. The warship was all they had. The crackling sound of static filled the room as the transmission came through. A voice emerged from the noise, distorted but recognizable. "Drake, this is Commander Dalton, from the Alliance fleet. We need your help. The aliens, they're planning something." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the crew stunned. It was brief, barely enough to understand, but there was no mistaking the urgency in Dalton's voice. "Commander Dalton," Drake muttered, his eyes scanning the bridge. Could this be a trap? He glanced at Ryan, who met his gaze with a troubled look. "Whatever it is, Captain, it's not over," Ryan said grimly. "The aliens might have retreated, but this just got a lot more complicated." Drake nodded, a heavy weight settling over him. "Prepare for anything. We don't know what we're up against yet, but this could be the break we've been waiting for." As the warship remained poised in the silence of space, Captain Drake realized that the real battle was only just beginning. The unexpected retreat of the alien battleship wasn't a victory. It was merely the calm before the storm. And if Commander Dalton's message was any indication, they were about to face an even greater threat than they could have imagined. The human warship hovered silently in the cold void of space, the stars stretching infinitely around them. The bridge was tense, filled with uncertainty. Captain Drake's mind raced as he stared at the readouts before him. The mysterious retreat of the alien battleship, coupled with the unexpected transmission from Commander Dalton, had turned everything upside down. The calm before the storm was not something Drake was used to, and every instinct told him to prepare for whatever was coming next. "Captain, we have an incoming message from Commander Dalton's ship," Sophia reported, her fingers moving swiftly over the console. "The signal is still weak, but it's coming through." "Put it on the screen," Drake replied. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing with questions. What had happened to the fleet? Why had the aliens retreated? And what did Dalton mean by needing help? The screen flickered, and the face of Commander Dalton appeared, his expression grim. Behind him, the faint outline of a fleet could be seen, but the image was blurry, distorted by static. "Captain Drake, I know this is a lot to process," Commander Dalton began, his voice strained. "But we need your help. The alien fleet, it's only a distraction. They're planning something much larger. They've found a way to bypass our defenses, and we don't have the strength to hold them off." Drake's eyes narrowed. He had been expecting a trap, but this was something far worse. "What do you mean by bypass our defenses?" Dalton paused for a moment, clearly gathering his thoughts. "They've developed a new weapon, something we haven't seen before. It's capable of disabling our entire fleet in one strike. We need you to rendezvous with us at the designated coordinates. Together, we have a chance to stop them before it's too late." Captain Drake stood motionless, absorbing Dalton's words. A new weapon. Something capable of destroying entire fleets. It was clear that the aliens had been hiding their true power, and now it was all coming to light. But why had they retreated moments before? "Understood," Drake replied, his voice steady despite the uncertainty bubbling inside him. "We'll head to the rendezvous point immediately." The transmission cut off as quickly as it had come, leaving the crew with more questions than answers. What could this new weapon be? And why had the aliens retreated only to regroup with an even deadlier force? Captain Drake turned to his crew, his face hardening with resolve. "Prepare the ship for warp. We need to meet Dalton and the rest of the fleet. Whatever the aliens have planned, we're going to stop it." The crew worked swiftly, moving to their stations with practiced precision. Captain Drake knew that the stakes had just been raised. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about preventing a galactic catastrophe. The entire future of the galaxy could be at risk. As the warship entered warp speed, Captain Drake allowed himself a moment to reflect. He had led his crew through many battles. But this was different. The aliens had shown their hand, and now humanity was in a race against time. They had only one chance to stop the impending disaster. "Captain," Ryan Holt said from his station, his voice breaking the silence. "I've been analyzing the data. There's something strange about that alien retreat. I don't think they were just running away. I think they were buying time." "Buying time for what?" Drake asked, his mind racing. He hadn't considered that possibility, but Ryan's words struck a chord. The aliens had pulled back too suddenly, too perfectly timed. It had been more than a retreat. It had been a strategic move. "I can't say for sure," Ryan continued, his fingers flying over the controls. "But it looks like they've already initiated the first phase of their plan. If we don't stop them now, they'll be able to use their new weapon before we even know what hit us." Drake's face hardened. "Then we don't have time to waste." The ship surged forward, the stars stretching into long streaks as they entered warp space. The next few minutes would determine the fate of the galaxy. There was no turning back now. As they approached the designated coordinates, a sense of urgency filled the air. The crew knew that the coming confrontation could very well be their last. But Captain Drake had never been one to back down. His people had survived against the odds before, and they would do so again. The ship dropped out of warp, and the crew saw the rendezvous point in the distance, a large fleet of human ships standing ready. But even as they approached, a sense of unease lingered. Drake could sense it. the same feeling that had gripped him when the alien fleet had first appeared. Something wasn't right. "Captain," Sophia said, her voice tight with worry, "I'm detecting multiple ships, but they're not human." Drake's eyes snapped to the screen. "What do you mean, not human?" Before Sophia could respond, an alarm blared throughout the ship, signaling an incoming threat. The crew jumped into action as the bridge flooded with urgency. "Captain, it's them," Ryan shouted, his eyes wide with shock. "The aliens. They are here." Captain Drake's jaw clenched as he took his seat, his mind already calculating their next move. This was it, the moment of truth. The enemy had arrived, and humanity's survival depended on their ability to stop them. The final battle was about to begin. The warship shuddered as it came to a halt in front of the alien fleet. The stars ahead seemed to blur, but they were far from any illusion. This was real, and the time had come. Captain Drake's eyes hardened as the alien ships, looming like shadows, took shape before him. "All systems are online and ready, Captain," Sophia reported, her voice steady despite the tension. "But we are outnumbered. The alien fleet is much larger than we expected." Drake didn't need to look at the readings to know the odds. The enemy fleet had gathered in full force, their ships far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered before. Yet, here they were, humanity's single warship against the looming alien armada. This battle was no longer about fighting for victory. It was about surviving the impossible. "We can't afford to retreat," Drake said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of responsibility. "We have to hold them off long enough for the rest of the fleet to regroup. If we fail here, everything will be lost." "Understood," Sophia replied, her fingers flying over the controls to bring the weapons online. The ship was ready, the crew was prepared, and there was no turning back. A message blinked onto the screen. It was from Commander Dalton, the fleet's commander, but the transmission was garbled. Through the static, Drake could make out a few words. "Captain, the weapon. They've... too late. Destroy." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Drake didn't have time to dwell on it. The aliens were closing in, and the fleet needed him to act now. "Focus on that lead ship," Drake ordered, his voice sharp. "Take them out before they can deploy the new weapon. Everyone else, stay sharp. We can't afford any distractions." The warship's cannons powered up, and Ryan Holt prepared the targeting systems. As the alien ships loomed larger, Drake could feel the anticipation building in the pit of his stomach. The humans aboard this warship had trained for countless scenarios, but they had never faced anything like this. The lead alien ship fired first. A massive beam of energy shot out, striking the shields of the human warship. The ship shuddered, but the shields held, barely. The crew braced for impact as the warship retaliated, launching its own volley of missiles toward the alien vessel. "Direct hit," Ryan shouted. The alien ship staggered but didn't go down. Instead, it retaliated with another round of devastating fire. The battle was on. Drake's hands gripped the arms of his chair, his mind racing. Every decision he made could be the difference between life and death, not just for him and his crew, but for all of humanity. And the aliens weren't going to stop until they had wiped them out. The warship continued to exchange fire with the alien fleet, and the stars around them became a blur of flashing lights. The crew fought tirelessly, their training kicking in with each wave of assault. Despite the enemy's overwhelming numbers, humanity's warship fought like a cornered animal, desperate, determined, and relentless. "Captain, the enemy is advancing too quickly," Sophia warned, her voice tight with alarm. "The weapons we've deployed so far aren't enough to stop them. We need something stronger." Drake's mind spun. There had to be something. They were running out of time. His eyes flicked to the star charts, then to the weapon systems. "We have one shot," Drake said, his voice low but resolute. "Prepare the warhead. We're going to take them down, or we're going to go down trying." The crew worked quickly. the tension mounting. If they used the warhead, there was no turning back. It was a last-ditch effort, a weapon so powerful that it could obliterate everything in its path. But it was their only hope. The alien ships grew closer, and the first waves of missiles from the enemy ship streaked toward them. The warship's shields flared as the impact rocked the hull. "Captain, the warhead is ready," Ryan called out, his voice urgent. "It's our only chance." Drake's gaze shifted to the massive alien fleet, now mere moments away from unleashing their full assault. The clock was ticking, and every second felt like an eternity. With one command, everything could change. "Fire the warhead," Drake ordered. The moment the words left his mouth, the warship launched its final weapon. The warhead hurtled toward the alien fleet with incredible speed. Drake watched, his breath held in his chest, as the warhead drew closer to the lead alien ship. And then, in a blinding explosion, the warhead made contact. The explosion sent a shockwave through the battle, knocking both human and alien ships off course. For a moment, everything went silent, the space around them filled with debris and drifting wreckage. But the battle wasn't over. The alien fleet wasn't finished yet. The remaining ships regrouped, and their weapons powered up again. The fight was far from over. However, the humans had made their stand, and they weren't going down without a fight. Drake gritted his teeth. The weapon had done its damage, but there was more to do. The alien fleet might have lost their lead ship, but they were still a formidable force. And as humanity's warship drifted through the aftermath of the explosion, Captain Drake's mind was already focused on the next phase of the battle. "We can win this," he muttered to himself as the warship surged forward to engage once again. The warship groaned under the pressure of continued assault as the crew braced for another wave of enemy fire. Despite the initial success with the warhead, the battle was far from over. The alien fleet, now less organized but still massive, rallied behind their remaining command ships. "Shields are at 60%, Captain," Sophia reported, her hands a blur over the console. "We've taken heavy damage, but we're still holding on." Drake nodded grimly. The warship was battered, its outer hull marred by the relentless barrage. Yet the ship and its crew had proven something fundamental to the galaxy that day. They could endure. They had fought a battle no one expected them to survive, and they were still standing. "Ready the secondary weapons," Drake commanded, his voice steel hard. "We need to disable their flagship before they regroup. Target the engines. I don't care if we have to cripple their entire fleet, but we need to stop them from reassembling." Sophia quickly adjusted the targeting systems, firing in 3, 2, 1. The ship's remaining cannons roared as they unleashed a volley of powerful projectiles aimed directly at the heart of the alien fleet, their flagship. It was the largest, most menacing ship among them. And without it, the aliens would lose coordination. The missiles rocketed through space, leaving trails of light in their wake. The flagship returned fire, sending a barrage of destructive energy toward the human warship. The sheer force of the blast shook the entire vessel, but the crew had no choice but to keep pressing forward. Direct hit. "Their shields are down," Ryan yelled from his station. The alien flagship was exposed now, vulnerable, and humanity's warship pressed the attack. Each shot fired from their remaining weapons felt like a moment of defiance against the overwhelming odds stacked against them. "Push them back. Don't let them gain any ground," Drake shouted, his voice a rallying cry for the crew. The warship's engines roared as it shot forward, weaving through enemy fire with precision and speed. The alien ships, once so sure of their victory, faltered. For the first time, they were on the defensive, and the human crew could feel the momentum shifting. A blinding explosion erupted from the alien flagship as the final shot hit its engine core, the massive ship disintegrating in a ball of fire. The shockwave sent debris tumbling across space, and the remaining alien vessels hesitated, unsure of their next move. "Flagship destroyed," Sophia exclaimed, her voice filled with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. But there was no time for celebration. The alien fleet was far from broken. The remaining ships, now leaderless, fought desperately to regroup. They were not ready to give up just yet. "We're not finished yet," Drake muttered, eyes scanning the battlefield. "They might be shaken, but they're not done. We need to finish them before they can rebuild." The warship, now heavily damaged, pushed forward. It was a relentless pursuit. The crew could feel the weight of every decision pressing on their shoulders. They had survived the impossible, but this final act would define the fate of their world. The final moments of the battle were a blur. Each maneuver, each shot, each move calculated with cold precision. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the alien ships fell silent. No more fire came from their vessels. The space around the warship was littered with debris, the bodies of fallen ships drifting like forgotten memories. The crew sat in stunned silence, still processing the weight of the victory they had just won. It was over. The warship had triumphed against an enemy far more powerful, against impossible odds. But Captain Drake knew this victory wasn't just about the ship or the weapons. It was about the crew. It was about humanity. They had proven, once and for all, that no matter how overwhelming the odds, no matter how daunting the enemy, humanity would always find a way to survive. "We did it," Drake said softly, looking out at the wreckage of the alien fleet. But there was no celebration. Not yet. The journey was far from over. There were still battles to fight, unknown threats in the dark corners of the galaxy. But for now, humanity had a victory to claim. And in the vast expanse of space, the legend of humanity's single ship, against the odds, would live on forever.